Hello, so I read this many books this week, and without much further ado, let's get into it. Hello, Willow. I love you so much. So I just read A Reluctant Witch's Guide to Magic by Siobhan Plotzer, and I will be talking about this in my Kids Corner segment, but I did read this week. I love you. I love you. Can we kiss? No. Now that it's summer, my scar right here might be becoming a little more obvious. I used to have a little beauty spot my entire life, which I really liked having on my face. I thought it gave it character. Unfortunately, 2 years ago, it started growing and changing, and my doctors were worried it might be melanoma, and living in Australia, you don't sort of like mess around with that. So they did literally like cut out the whole thing. And they promised me there wouldn't be any scarring, but I've got like a circular disc, like a dent, because they carve deep when they cut out moles. They go hard. And I do have a scar that sometimes shines brightly white when I'm tanned. So if you're wondering what that spot on my face is, it's a scar. It turned out not to be melanomas, which yay, but also I'm really sad because I really liked that mole, man.
Hey dudes. Hey my dudes.
I just finished crocheting a tarot bag. I filmed a tutorial for it on my other channel, Spirited Stardust, because a few people were asking me, how do you make your bags? So I finally filmed me making one, and it's done. So I just read The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. It says it's a literary masterpiece. I gave this 2 stars. Yeah, if I want to read a book about postpartum depression and the absolute lack of proper mental health care given to women in the past, there are so many other novels that I would pick up. This one just doesn't do it for me. It wasn't incredibly thought-provoking. It wasn't amazingly written. It wasn't enthralling. I get the fixation with the yellow wallpaper, but this didn't hit for me, and I'm just a bit sort of stumped as to why it's so famous. Like I said, there's plenty of great books about postpartum depression in women and the lack of healthcare for that and the way they were treated by mostly male doctors in the past, but yeah, this book just wasn't it. The next book, my kid's laughing at me. Then I read We Are What We Eat, A Slow Food Manifesto by Alice Waters, Bob Corral, and Christina Mueller. I gave this 3 stars. I'll start with the positive things about it. I do like the sort of mixed media. I'm all for mixed media in novels. It just makes it so much more fun to read. The writing is good, as in it's very easy to read. It's very palatable. You absorb it quite quickly. It's just a breeze to get through. The main message of this book is, let's look, the topics that they discuss are convenience, uniformity, availability, advertising, cheapness, speed, all sorts of, modern day food practices that are detrimental to not only the planet, but also us as human beings. And that the solution is, let's all eat organic, locally grown, seasonal food that we make from scratch and all work jobs that we love. It's like, okay, bruh. But you also have to take into account like wage inequality and time inequality and energy and health inequality. Like, how do people who have health conditions and just don't have the physical stamina or energy to do these things do this? How do people who have a very low income afford this? How do they do this? How do people who work very long hours and have very little time to spare do this? Like, if you're going to say this is what we all need to do, you have to then tell us, how do we do it? You have to take into account everybody's difficulties and circumstances. We're not all, like, this book does wreak a lot of privilege, and also it's quite tone deaf. So that's in this day and age, you need to take into account everybody's situations, and this book does not do that. Like in the past, this would be, be like, okay, this book's fine, but these days it's like, and like, that's great, but how do we do that when we're not, wealthy, white, privileged person, like let us know. So that aside, obviously, you know, it does, you know, help you to reevaluate what you can do. Like, what more can I do? I can't do the most because of my own issues, but could I do a bit more? In what way? And what would have the most benefit to myself and the world and others? So that's why I gave it 3 stars. So I just read Wildcard, Let the Tarot Tell Your Story by Jen Cownie and Fiona Lensvelt. So this one is more like a novel. So it's in sort of novel format. They do talk about divination in this one. And then you've just got like explanations about the cards. They don't talk about sort of like astrological associations and things like that. But I do enjoy the more personal tone. And I'll read so you can get an example. So we have the 9 of Pentacles. Hey, Sylvie. To me, the 9 of Pentacles is first and foremost the patron saint of the happy singleton. And that means that she is Cher. More specifically, she is Cher giving the infamous interview in which she is asked about her relationships. She answers with an anecdote. My mum said to me, you know, sweetheart, one day you should settle down and marry a rich man. And I said, Mum, I am a rich man. This 9 is a woman who stands in her own power. She is a rich man. Sometimes that's literal. This card can speak to professional and financial success. The crucial point is that her motivation comes from within. Her achievements are things that she has worked for or built because she wanted to, not because someone told her she must. So I like in tarot books when they include sort of pop culture or contemporary references. It helps to really flesh out the personality and the archetype of the card when you're using real life modern examples. So in that case, like I said, I do love pop culture references in books like this. I always check out like the 3 of Swords and see what they say. And like I said, I just like the way this is written. It's really interesting and it's engaging. It's not dry. So for instance, the 3 of Swords. As the Austrian neurologist, psychiatrist, and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl is thought to have said, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. This card does not suggest that pain or trauma is somehow edifying. Instead, it acknowledges that difficult things over which you have absolutely no control can happen, and that they can change you. The 3 of Swords encourages you to recognize your pain, and it invites you, when you're ready, to do something with your story. Perhaps that means sharing it with a person or community who can help you to heal. Perhaps means sharing it to help someone else feel less alone. It's not always easy to see the gift in the 3 of Swords, particularly when you're in the thick of it, but it is there. So I thought it was just really beautifully written. They talk about, like, all the cards have quite a few pages. You've got the keywords up the top, and then they just talk about it, like I said, in their own personality, and they end each one with questions to ask regarding that card. And then they've got some examples of spreads, like 2 cards, not showing it, but just like questions you can ask. And I thought this one was really cool. I never thought of to put it this way. In the blue corner and in the red corner for a 2-card spread. Got a thorny problem that you can't make sense of, or a difficult decision with no clear answer? Use the tarot kind of like Street Fighter. Pick 2 cards to represent different aspects of the issue or different choices and let them battle it out. We wish you a quick and conclusive KO. So I would definitely choose Chun-Li and Ryu. But I just thought that was really cute. They have also information, like they talk about keeping a tarot journal, patterns and trends, suit mates, neighbors, mana, major siblings, which is really cool. They've also recommend tarot decks, and there's stuff here that I've never even heard of before, like Spolia Tarot and Akamara Tarot, Black Power Tarot. So some interesting stuff. They recommend other tarot books, which is really cool. Lots of questions to ask yourselves. And at the end, they have the cards at a glance. So if you just want to see, okay, I want to see 2 of Wands, and they'll have the numerological meaning of 2, daily tasks of the suit, building or blocking, a decision that must be made in order to progress. So if you just want a quick brief glance, they do have that at the end. And then they've got all their references. And I like it when people use references. But this, I won't say that this is a straight up beginner's book. No, this is when you've got like a base knowledge of tarot and you want to read something that's a little more personal, has some character and individuality in it, then I would recommend something like this. This book smells really good too. I don't normally notice the scent of books, even if they are new, they all smell the same, but this new book one has a really good new book scent. So I just thought I'd say that. But I found this really fun to read, and I'm always looking for something that's a little bit different, not so dry, you know, sort of stock standard and impersonal. I just want personal, like, interpretations of the tarot these days, because I like to see everyone's different opinions on stuff. So that was Wildcard Tarot, and I gave that a 4.5 out of 5. So I just read the second installment in the Rainbow Grey series, which is Eye of the Storm. Once again, we had a great time reading it. There's beautiful illustrations in these books, which are really fun, and I'll talk about it more in my kids segment. But currently I am listening to The Secret History by Donna Tartt. It is quite similar to Babel, but less serious. So there's a less serious tone, although I am finding the main dude dull and tepid, just like I did with Robin. But we'll see how we go with it. So let's have a look at the other books that I managed to read this week. So we've got The Lovers by Yumna Kassab. This is in the POV of a couple, and it just wasn't for me. I found it too dreamlike. So the writing was very soft, very sort of inner reflection, wistful musings of the pair, not really much communication going on between them, just sort of them in their own heads, musing about the relationship and what went wrong and what they like about each other and that sort of thing. And it just, yeah, it was too quiet, too slow. I didn't buy the relationship. I wasn't invested in the characters. I wasn't really riveted. I finished it because it's so easy to read. The writing is really, really big and the chapters are pretty tiny. So I think I went through it in less than an hour. But yeah, it's just not really for me. It's not my kind of thing. So that was The Lovers. Then I read Squire, which is a graphic novel. It's sort of about this world where people from different areas, sometimes warring factions, compete to become squires, like this sort of elite, these elite soldiers, and sort of discovering maybe the corruptness that exists within different organizations. It was fine. I gave it 3.5. It was entertaining. I liked the illustration style. I got through it. It's just not really, it wasn't super duper for me. It wasn't really something that I was just like, oh wow, I'm really invested in this. And then I read Salonika Burning by Gail Jones. This is about the fires in Macedonia in 1917. I DNF'd this because this is just really not for me. So you've got multiple POVs of people that were on the scene, so like firefighters and nurses and paramedics, and all of them just felt very same. So all the characters are in the same voice, and when there's not a real distinction between each character, I really disengage. It was also, once again, like slow paced. It felt very quiet. It's not riveting enough for me. I need a lot more stimulation in my books. I have found, just for me personally at this point in my life, I need a bit of bang, and this didn't really have the bang for me. And like I said, it's just not my theme. It's not my genre. I did mostly grab it because I thought the burning bougainvilleas were gorgeous. And I'm like, oh yeah, it could be okay. I'm trying to be open, but I'm like, no, it's not for me. And if I keep reading, I'd end up giving it an unfair low score just because it's not my genre. So that was that one. Then I read Out of My Mind by Sharon M. Draper. This is a middle grade book, and I'll be talking more about it in my kids section. So that is everything that I read this week. I have chosen the books that I will be doing a reading vlog for in March. So that is these two here. I forgot the name, The Enchanted Something and Spells for Forgetting. So those are the two that I've decided to go with, and will film my response. So feel free to read along, and that way you can watch the spoilery vlog. But besides those two that I'm doing vlogs for, here are some books that I might be able to get to in the following week. And I hope that wherever you are having an absolutely amazing morning, afternoon, or evening. And as always, stay wild, Star Child.